Hello and welcome to today's live reading from Ballet School Rumors, the Amberwood Ballet School Series Book 3 by Eleanor Dixon, presented by Itsy Bitsy Book Bits. Chapter 1. Lauren glanced up as the first flake of artificial snow floated down to the stage. She just had time to glimpse Rodney, the ghost of Amberwood Hall's stable boy, grinning as he waved his arms to make the snow swirl and eddy. The music swelled and Lauren felt like she would take off and fly as the dancers leaped through snowflakes that were turning into a blizzard thanks to Rodney's antics. The cheeky ghost was only visible to Lauren, and she tried not to laugh as he flew round and round the stage, whipping up the snowstorm. She needed to concentrate. The finale to the Christmas show was already a frenzy of fast moves and changing places. She didn't have time to watch Rodney. As the music soared to a crescendo, Lauren stepped onto the point of her right foot and pirouetted into position in front of Luis Nguyen, a senior boy. Mirroring her at the other side of the stage, her best friend Katie took her pose in front of another senior, Zachary Flores. Lauren tightened her core and lifted her weight out of her hips as Luis placed his hands around her waist. A quick check told her she and Katie were synchronized. Then, on the last chord of the music, the boys swooped Lauren and Katie onto their shoulders as though they weighed no more than dolls. Lauren lodged the side of her foot against Luis's chest for added balance, while his left arm circled her waist and kept her safe. His right arm followed the same circle as hers, and they finished with a flourish in an open arabesque position, with Lauren's arm high, Luis's low. Lauren looked towards Katie, whose smile matched her own. The applause thundered through the auditorium, and Lauren thought her heart would burst with happiness. What a wonderful way to end the term! She wished this moment could last forever. She stole a look into the wings where Grace, Amberwood's principal resident ghost, was clasping her hands to her chest in an expression of sheer delight. Grace had helped Lauren in her first year at Amberwood and, along with Katie, was Lauren's other best friend. All too soon, the curtain cut them off from the audience, and Luis and Zachary lowered the girls to the ground. "Well done, kids!" Luis grinned and gave Lauren a high five before sauntering off the stage with the rest of his year. Lauren drew in her breath and gazed round. She didn't want to leave the stage yet. She wanted to savor this moment. The smell of the resin from the ballet shoes, the sound of applause dying away, the disembodied swell of conversation from the audience behind the heavy velvet curtains, the shuffle of the dancers' feet as they made their way to the wings and the dressing rooms. She ran to the heavy curtains and made a tiny gap so that she could peer through to the auditorium. There was Mom and her new boyfriend, Nick. They seemed to be getting on well with Jay's parents. Then Lauren's view was blocked as the huge shape of Hunter Jensen, a famous black rapper from New York, rose out of a seat a few rows in front. He was a friend of Ethan's dad, and, as he was on tour in England, had come to the show in place of Ethan's parents, who couldn't get there from New York where they lived. Jensen's gold jewelry glinted in the house lights, and Lauren could almost see the entire audience reflected in his huge dark glasses. He'd caused quite a sensation by his appearance, and Ethan had been delighted. He hadn't been expecting anyone to come see him in the show. Lauren let the curtains fall back into place. Turning back to the stage, she blew a stray snowflake off her nose. Excited chatter filled the air as the Year 9s swapped notes on what had gone right or wrong for them in the show. Then Lauren heard someone call her name. She swiveled round to see Jay limping onto the stage with his walking stick in one hand, a camera in the other. His leg was healing well, but he'd be off dancing for a few more weeks. His face was one huge grin. "That was awesome," Jay said. "The atmosphere was electric. How on earth did they get the snow to swirl around like that? You can't believe how good it looked from the front. I wish I could have taken part." "Well, that'll teach you to fall off roofs," Lauren teased her friend and classmate. "I'm sure you'll be fine by the time we do another show. Did you get any of it on your phone?" Katie and Ethan came over as she was speaking. Their fingers kept brushing together till Ethan took hold of Katie's hand properly. So they were officially dating, Lauren thought, with a fuzzy feeling in her stomach. That would make Katie's Christmas. "Better than that," Jay said, indicating the camera. "Mark's dad brought this and let me do the filming so that he could relax and watch the show." "Heads!" came a warning yell from the grid above, and Lauren and friends jumped and made a mad dash for the wings. Lauren looked back as ropes uncoiled and dangled mere feet from where they had just been standing. She sighed with delight. Even if she worked, slept, and ate on stage, she didn't feel she would ever get enough of it. "Time to go," called a Year 10 stagehand, waving a broom at the group of friends. "We need to strike the scenery, and you're in the way." He began to sweep up the artificial snow. The sound of hammers working on supports and scenery flats made it difficult to talk anyway, so the group of friends drifted away to their classmates who were collecting their belongings from backstage. Mark, the fourth boy in year 9 whose dad had lent Jay the camera, joined them. "Let's have a look," he said, holding out his hand. Jay handed the camera to him. "You'd have done a better job, probably," he conceded, "the way you're always messing with cameras and computers, but I did my best." Everyone clamored round to see the footage. Before long, most of year 9 were crushing up, standing on point, or pushing on each other's shoulders to get a better view of the tiny screen. "I knew I'd miss that beat," Emily groaned. "You look amazing, though, Allie." "Well, get out of my way and let me see," Allison snapped. Mark held the camera above his head. "I'll WhatsApp you all the video," he said. "Then you can look at it on your own screens, full size." "Good idea," agreed Lauren, who felt like she was suffocating with so many hot, sweaty bodies pressing around her. "Time we weren't here anyway. Our parents will be waiting to take us home." "Not mine," Jay said, falling into step beside her as they made their way out of the stage door and skirted the auditorium, headed for the main house. "It's too far to drive now. They booked a room in town for the night and we're leaving tomorrow morning." "Doesn't look like we'll be leaving soon either," Katie chuckled, and she pointed back towards the glass-walled foyer. Everyone turned to see Katie's film star mom, surrounded by a large group of students clutching pieces of paper and pens. "This always happens." At that moment, Mrs. Harriott appeared behind Mrs. Dansfield. The sight of the students' faces turned scarlet, and the speed with which they melted away made it unnecessary to hear what the headmistress was saying. Katie's mom smiled gratefully at Mrs. Harriott, and Katie sighed. "Looks like we'll be heading off soon after all. Merry Christmas, everyone!" "I need to run," Ethan was staring at his mobile. "Dad's friend didn't just come to watch the show. He's coming home to New York with me. And we're going to the airport now. Bye, everyone. See you next term." He sped away towards the boys' dormitories in the stable block to change. "Are you coming?" Lauren tilted her head towards Katie. "I'll see you in the dorm," Katie said quickly. "I just want to say goodbye to Ethan." And she ran after him, calling, "Ethan, wait!" "Imagine flying all the way to New York with someone as famous as Hunter Jensen," Jay said. "Or someone as big," Lauren quipped. I hope they're going premium or whatever it's called. That rapper guy will take up 2 seats just with his gold jewelry." She shivered. "Sorry, Jay, but I'm going to split. It's freezing out here." "See you before you go?" Jay called. Lauren waved her hand and darted into the house and upstairs to the dormitory. It didn't take her long to change and shove the last-minute things into her case. Most of her stuff was staying at school, and she only had one case and her rucksack. She called goodbye to her dormitory mates and began dragging her bags along the corridor. "Lauren!" Matron's voice stopped her at the top of the stairs. "I was just about to send someone to find you." She handed Lauren a piece of paper. "This is the new girl's email address. I'm counting on you to get in touch and make friends. Then you can look after her when she arrives next term." Lauren took the paper and read the name, Nyree Peterson. She frowned. Why does she need looking after? Everyone will show her the ropes and make her feel welcome. Matron looked like she could say something on that subject, but wouldn't. Instead, she put her hand on Lauren's shoulder and gave it a quick squeeze. "Nyree is very young, Lauren," she explained. "She will be in year 9 with you, but she's only 11 years old. She's extremely bright, apparently, and will have to do some lessons on her own. For instance, maths. She's even way ahead of the year 11s. Lauren's jaw dropped. "Wow, that might be handy. She can help me," she joked. Matron looked at her sternly. "I want her to feel that she already has a friend before she gets here," she continued. "It's all going to be strange for her, especially coming from South Africa. Remember, she's leaving home for the first time, and she won't get to see her parents again till Easter." Lauren nodded. "I'll do my best, Matron." "I know you will. Now have a lovely holiday, and I'll see you next term." Matron turned back the way she had come, and Lauren continued down the stairs. Suddenly, she felt a rush of cold air. She stopped in the middle of the staircase and looked round. A shimmer of transparent corn-flue blue swirled and solidified until standing before her was Grace. "And just where did you think you were going?" Grace scolded. "How could you even think of leaving for the holidays without saying goodbye? I've been trying to talk to you since the end of the show, but you've been surrounded by people constantly." "I wasn't going to leave," Lauren protested. "I was just taking my stuff down, then I was coming to find you and Rodney, honest." Grace smoothed her frown. "I don't know where Rodney's got to," she said. "And anyway, he's not allowed up here by the girls' dormitories. He's probably haunting the stable block, giving the boys something to think about before they go." "It would be useful if he was here," Lauren resumed, bumping her case down the stairs. "At least he can move stuff. He could give me a bit of help with this." Grace floated beside her. "I'm going to miss you," she said, "but you'll have a lovely Christmas, and your mom's friend looks so kind." Lauren pressed her lips together and avoided Grace's eyes. "Well, we'll see," she muttered. She was still holding out on her decision about Nick. He seemed okay, but she wasn't sure if she wanted things to change at home. She'd only just got used to her mom being on her own, even though it was nearly 2 years since Dad died. Giving herself a mental shake, she looked back at Grace. "Wish I could give you a big hug." "Me too," smiled Grace. "Merry Christmas, Lauren. See you next term." Chapter 2. On Christmas morning, Lauren woke with a fluttery feeling of excitement in her stomach. She couldn't wait to see her brother Liam's face when he opened the present she had bought him, and she just knew that Mum would adore the pale pink jumper Lauren had found on the last weekend of term. She sat up and shone her torch on the bottom of the bed. Yes! There, as every year, was her Christmas stocking. Quietly, so as not to wake Liam, who was sleeping just the other side of a thin plasterboard dividing their room, she pulled the goodies out of the stocking. Apart from the inevitable tangerine and walnuts, a family tradition from when her mom was a child, Lauren pulled the wrapping off a pair of earmuffs, a card with 6 different pairs of earrings, a new hairbrush, some miniature bottles of perfume, and some heart-shaped scented candles. Then, tucked right at the bottom, were 2 pairs of socks. Lauren hugged them to her cheek. She had a thing about pulling on a new pair of socks. She just loved that feeling. Munching on her tangerine, she sent a text to Katie. "You awake?" She waited for a few minutes, but there was no reply. Nothing from Nairi either, though that wasn't a surprise. Lauren had emailed her to introduce herself, as Matron had asked, and then suggested that they text instead of email, because Lauren didn't want to have to keep asking Liam to use his computer. But Nairi wasn't very chatty and had only sent 1 or 2 texts in reply to Lauren's daily messages. Lauren slipped out of bed and into her fleece dressing gown. She would make Mum a cup of tea and take it to her bed. But when Lauren went to the top of the stairs, she could see the kitchen light was on. Samantha Mason was already up. Lauren bounded down and into the kitchen. "Happy Christmas!" she shouted as she threw her arms around her Mum's waist in a big bear hug. "Happy Christmas, my love," Mum replied, hugging her in return and kissing the top of her head. "Is that lazy brother of yours awake?" Lauren shook her head and poured some cereal into a bowl that was already on the table. "Course not," she said, reaching for the milk. "I'm starving. Can I have toast as well?" Mom waved her hand towards the toaster. "It's already on, but it would be nice to have breakfast all together. Go and wake Liam." Lauren grimaced. "I was rather hoping to keep my head safely on my shoulders today," she muttered, but she went back upstairs and gently shook her sleeping brother. "Groff," Liam growled as he turned his back on her and continued to doze. "It's Christmas," Lauren whispered, and she tickled his ear with a bookmark she found lying on the bedside table. "And me and Mom want to open prezzies. Get up!" Liam mumbled and turned onto his back. Lauren snapped on the bedside light, and Liam's hand flew to his eyes. "Must you?" he groaned. "Yep. Anything to get you up. Come on, Liam, just for today." She grabbed his stocking from the foot of the bed and dangled it in his face. "Look, Father Christmas has been." Liam snatched it off her and yawned. Then he dragged himself into a sitting position and started to shake the small gifts onto the duvet. "Peel that for me," he demanded, throwing the tangerine at Lauren. "It'll help me wake up." Lauren obliged, then went to the door. "I'll see you downstairs. Hurry, or you won't get any breakfast." An hour later, Lauren, Liam, and Mum were sitting around the Christmas tree in their tiny living room. A pile of discarded wrapping filled the space on the floor around Lauren where she was sitting in turnout position. Her eyes were glued on Liam, who was opening her present to him. "Oh, wow," he breathed as he took out a dark gray beanie with integrated headphones. "This is awesome! Thanks, sis. It's worth getting up for." He ruffled Lauren's hair, and she felt her cheeks burn with pride. There was one box left that was different from the empty, wrapped ones that Mum liked to keep under the tree, so it didn't look bare after all the gifts had gone. It was quite big, and Lauren was itching to know who it was for. Mum reached towards it, a smile playing on her lips. "And now," she said, picking it up, "for your main present, Lauren." "Me?" Lauren squealed, darting her a look of surprise. "But I've had loads. New leg warmers, books, that gorgeous lilac hoodie." "Well, this is a special present because Liam and I decided you need it." Mom handed over the box. Lauren ripped off the wrapping to reveal a plain cardboard box that gave no hint of what was inside. With a grin, Liam handed her his penknife and she sliced the sellotape seals. Being very careful, she turned the box up and let the inner package slide out. Then she gasped. "A laptop?" She whispered, "But, Mom, how can we afford that?" She tore at the box to get to the slimline computer inside and whistled in appreciation as she lifted it into the air and admired the sheen on the silver case. "Nick chipped in," Mom admitted, "so it's from him too." Lauren continued admiring her new machine, saying nothing. Mom must be serious about Nick to let him be part of their Christmas. She'd even invited him to the Christmas lunch and to spend the rest of the day with them. "It's difficult to have a Saturday job when you're at boarding school," Liam broke into her thoughts, "so you could never save up for one on your own like I did." Lauren darted him a grateful smile. "Yes, but Mom has to pay for all of my uniform, and I seem to go through a lot of point shoes. I never expected—" Her voice faded away. "Lauren, we're proud of you," Mom said, her voice breaking a little. "You're doing so well at Amberwood, and it's not as if I have to find the fees. You've kept your scholarship, and that's an enormous achievement. You deserve this." Lauren uncoiled her legs and rose to her feet without using her hands. She put her arms round her mom's neck and hugged her tight. Tears were prickling her eyes, and she gave a gentle sniff. "Thank you," she whispered. "You know I'll look after it." Mom returned the hug. "Of course you will," she said, "and I know you'll thank Nick properly too when he arrives. He promised he'd help you set it up." But Lauren couldn't wait for that. She sat on the sofa with the instructions and plugged the laptop in to the nearest socket. She would make a start on her own.